hear me, if you don't mind. Okay, awesome, Sababi. We're gonna wait one more minute while we set things up here. Oh, it's a whole chavra. This is so flimsy. Yeah, I have a better one to find it. Sorry, guys, don't look at the screen for a second, okay?
Vertigo.
Okay. This should be better. Oh, thank you so much for this. I'll thank him too. All right, let me get these out. Learning today for the Shlema of my father-in-law's sister, Probat Miriam Sarah. Boker Tov. Good morning.
I have my daughter.
Of course. What's the full name?
Sophia Hana.
Sophia Hana Bas. Cyril Meir. Absolutely, yeah. Okay, awesome. I'm just gonna keep these down there. Oh, this is such a game changer, this family. All right, so I'm very, very happy that we're back to Rebbe Nachman, especially for the teaching that we're going to be doing today. I think it's so important. It's so special. Hi, how you doing? Out of Bidud. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Good. Awesome. Awesome. So, we say in Shema, in the Parsha of Tzitzis, we say a statement that I don't know if we pay that much attention to, because I think if we did, we would have a hard time with it. And that is, V'lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem. Man, I just want to focus on the first part. V'lo taturu acharei levavchem. That we will not be led, or like, taturu is the same language that the Meraglim we were using. Was used by them to scout out. You don't let your heart pull you to places. And yet, everyone always speaks about the importance of being connected to your heart, speaking your heart, chokhmah salev, thinking from your heart, feeling from your heart, argasha salev. And we speak so much about the importance about about the moach versus but the mind versus the heart. Okay, it's over. Okay, it's over. We talk about these things all the time. And the question that we're going to address today, a very important one is, and I want you to think about this really strongly, is that it can't be that the Rebbe Nachman gave us a heart and the point is to ignore it. That can't be. And matzah. It's not that Hashem gave us a heart. He's like, I'm going to give you this thing that has the potential to feel so much and to have all these different emotions. And it's also the gateway for so much to go through. But the point is, you got to ignore your heart. That can't be. It pashut can't be. So the question we have today is, what am I supposed to do with my heart? If the Torah tells me, don't follow, I'm trying to find a better word for it. Does anyone have a better word? I mean, you say it every day.
Stray. Yeah.
Could be. Thank you, whoever that was.
To be led astray.
To be led astray by your heart. That means that you can have a concept of the heart playing a very strong function in your life, yet not be led astray by it. So, what I want us to understand right now is that what we're going to be learning right now is essential Rebbe Nachman Torah. Mamash essential Rebbe Nachman Torah. And we're going to answer the question, how do you know when you can trust your heart? Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing to crack? What a beautiful thing if we could figure that one out. How do you know when that which your heart is telling you is what you can be somech on, what you can believe in? Because that's what we have to do right now. And when to know that it's leading us astray. It just seems like, like jackpot if we could really figure this one out. So, okay. So this is what we're going to be doing is a short teaching from Likutei Moharan. We're not going to do all of this. It's Likutei Moharan, Torah Kuf Nun Vav. For those of you that have Likutei Moharan, you can open it up to teaching 156. It's a classic teaching from the Rebbe. And again, the question we have over here is, how do I know? How is it possible to reach a world, to live in a world, to create for myself a world where I can trust my heart and not be nervous that it's leading me astray? Lev tahor brali Elokim. Beruach nachon chadesh bekirbi. We all grew up with those words. Great nigun to those words that we grew up on. By, was it Vekas, I think? Lev tahor brali Elokim. God, Ribono Shel Olam, creates for me a pure heart. So Rebbe Nachman says like this. Ki ma shemedabrim beino levein kono hu bechinas ruach hakodesh. That which takes place, the speech the speech that you do, the speech that takes place between you and your Creator during hitbodedut, ma shemedabrim beino levein kono. We're not talking about tefillah like from a siddur. This is specifically the conversation that happens, that you have from hitbodedut. Ma shemedabrim beino levein kono hu bechinat ruach hakodesh. Is an aspect of ruach hakodesh. You and I grew up in a world where probably that concept was not something that seemed right, feasible at any level. It's not really part of what they told us. That's in the book. It's in the cards for us, unless you went to different. I don't know, different type of school. So he says, that when you speak, when you have this conversation, there's an aspect of Ruach HaKodesh that comes this. Let's see what that means. ודוד המלך עליו השלום, שהיה מעלתו גדולה מאוד, ייסד מזה ספר תהילים. Now really, all of Sefer Tehillim, Rebbe Nachman says, is one long hitbodedut session. And we know that Sefer Tehillim is called Kulo Ruach HaKodesh. We've been having very special men's chabura since we started a few weeks ago. Last night was another one, and it was so special because what we're learning Purification Tehillim of David HaMelech speaking about Tshuva while we're looking at Beit Lechem, where David HaMelech was born. It was so special. And we're seeing how the words that David HaMelech is saying to the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, once he's going to a place of ownership, of owning the places where he's turned his head away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or owning some heavy stuff like with Batsheva, and other things that, again, we can't really understand, but we know they're very heavy. What a place of Ruach HaKodesh that's coming out of his mouth when he's doing his bodedus. But have in mind, whenever you're saying Tehillim, you're basically being invited into one of David HaMelech's hitbodedut sessions. Like the Rebbe began over here, Ma shemedabrim beino levein kono, ze bechinas Ruach HaKodesh, umize yiseh David HaMelech sefer Tehillim. But it's not just David HaMelech. Rabbi Nachman continues and he says, V'chen kol echad lefi b'chinato hu b'chinat Ruach HaKodesh. Now, I just want to read the psukim in Tehillim. How did Rabbi Nachman come to connecting Ruach HaKodesh to Taharat HaLev? Well, let's say the psukim for a second. Lev tahor brali Elokim v'ruach nachon chadesh bekirbi. Al tashlicheni milfanecha. And then, v'ruach kodshecha al tikach mimeni. Now, there's a lot of words, and the first Torah I ever told Jack, all of a shalom, was the following teaching. Al tashlicheni milfanecha, ruach kodshecha al tikach mimeni. You can only take away from me something that I have. So what are we saying when we say ruach kodshecha al tikach mimeni? What are we basically saying without saying? I have Ruach HaKodesh. I remember where we were. We were in Gav's downstairs in the shul back in its previous reincarnation before, and there was Tisha B'Av. Ruach Kodesh al tikach mimeni. So that's why Rebbe Nachman says, Taharat Alev, the purification of the heart, purifying our heart, is very much connected to Ruach HaKodesh. Okay? So, the reason why I chose Dafka to learn this piece now is because of the following sentence, really. Because now we're going into a very key phrase in Ledavid Hashem Ori V'ishi. Okay? Rebbe Nachman says, Kol echad lefi b'chinato hu b'chinat Ruach HaKodesh, כמו שכתוב, לך אמר ליבי. כמו שפירש רש"י, לך בשבילך ובשליחותך אמר ליבי, אמר לי ליבי. This is a very funny statement. לך, not chas v'shalom funny, but a very puzzling statement. לך אמר ליבי. To you, my heart said. Right? And what did my heart say to you? Bakshu fanai. Demand my punim, demand me. Es panecha Hashem avakesh. I will ask for your panim, I will ask for your presence in my life, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rashi says over here, lecha, when it says to you, lecha bishvilcha ubishlichutcha. For you and on your shlichus Hashem, my heart told me to demand you. So it's a little bit complicated. Again, Lecha amar libi. We say this in David Hashem Ori V'ishi every day. Lecha amar libi bakshu fanai. Lecha. Rashi says bishvilcha ubishlichutcha. For you, and really, this is really why you sent me to this world, to engage in conversation with you. And that's a very beautiful way of approaching it, but really approaching all the world of Torah and Mitzvah. That when I'm engaging in, I'm like, okay, what does a shliach feel when he goes out and he fulfills his shlichut for which he was sent? There's a sense of not just accomplishment, but there's a sense of ne'emanut. There's a sense of loyalty to the shlichus. You guys ever official shluchim? Not yet. Sorry? Shleimut. Yeah. Why? Explain that. That's very good. So if you believe that you were put into this world to engage in conversation with God, there's nothing more shalem than that feeling. And that's why a Breslover cannot miss a day of Itbodedut. Because they get a sense of, what do you mean? I'm doing what I was sent for. Like people that grow up and like mommies that have the sense of my shlichut in this world was to bring children into this world. For some people, that can completely mashlim them. If that's what they feel they were sent for. And so too, many different things. It doesn't matter really right now what it is, but it's very good what you're saying. There's a sense of shleimut when you're doing what you feel you're supposed to be doing. So the two perushim in Rashi was lecha, for you, and I would say because of you, my heart is calling out to you. And we're going to explain this as we go along this teaching. שכל הדברים שהלב אומר הם דברי השם יתברך ממש. All the words of Hashem all the words that the heart is saying is really divrei Hashem yitbarach. That's Hashem talking. That's pretty out there, huh? That when you're in the zone of itbodedut and it's really on, and you have a shleimus of what you're doing, at that moment, what you're speaking, Rebbe Nachman says, is Ruach HaKodesh, which means, what does Ruach HaKodesh mean? That's not really you talking. It's the person that sent you out on the shlichus that's talking. I know that's not how we think about things. I know that's not how we grew up, but this is a very, very important piece. Very important piece. On the one hand, I'm just going to say in a pshat, why is this so important? Because if the words that are coming out of my mouth through conversing with God are really just my words and my thoughts, then sometimes I'll think it's whatever. I won't take it that seriously. But what happens when I'm engaged in conversation, hitbodedut with Hashem, and the words that are coming out to me, I sincerely experience it as divrei Hashem, I'll take it so much seriously, more seriously. I'll listen much clearer also to what's going on in the conversation. Because I believe that what's happening right now is mamash gadol mimeni. It's bigger than me. Is that stimming? Perfect. Absolutely. It's exactly that. Hashem sfatai titach ufi agiti latecha, but in Shmona Esrei, it's someone else's words. It's Anshe Knesset Gdola. So over here, it's just a little bit different because over here, it's basically in Hidbodut Hashem sfatai tiftach ufi agiti latecha, Master of the world, Efo ani. Master of the world, thank you. But whatever. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry. Absolutely. Absolutely. The government. I asked one time, I was sitting with Reb Chaim Kramer, and I was asking him eitzas on, like, you know, people come to him all the time for counseling and asking shilas and, you know, advice. And he said to me, you know, right before every time someone comes to him to ask any kind of shaila, he consciously makes a stop and he says, Hashem, can you please use me as your mouthpiece? Like just for now, please, whatever's gonna happen right now, I don't want it to be anything but what you want to be said right now. And that's a very, very big thing, because you know what happens to people when people come to them for eitzes? They start to,
Ego.
Whoa, they're coming to me? Wow. That means I must have something to say. No, fool. They're coming to you because they believe that you are cleansing yourself to be this pipeline through which Hashem's words will be said. So that's what I was thinking about when you said, like, in any type of conversation, Hashem, like if someone comes and meets some eitzes, Hashem sefasai tiftach l'fi agiti lasecha, that's also for that kind of a conversation too. Marilyn?
Sometimes when you're engaged in conversation with Hashem, or you could spend a few minutes before the do, you feel like I just got a message from somewhere. Where did that come from? You know, and then you feel that.
That's what he's saying. Shleimut, nachon. That's what he's saying. Mamash.
You know, you said that this isn't how we were brought up. This
Right.
isn't, like, depending on what school you went to. But last year we brought friends from Chutz La'aretz to visit the farm, and Ari Abramovich was showing them around, and he said, and over there is going to be our school for prophecy. And I looked at him and I was like, he's like, what? You don't feel like the hula is starting? Like, why can't there be a school for prophecy?
He's dead serious. They're dead serious.
Like, you know what? He's right. He's right.
You know, one of Rav Kook's top students was the Rav Nazir, and his yahrzeit was the end of Av, Rav David Akon. He's the Rav that we learned that walked from Yerushalayim to Hebron to be with Rav Kook on Rosh Chodesh Elul. We learned it over this. It's one of the Zoom sessions. That's a whole blur. One of the Zoom sessions of Rav Kook and Hebron. So he said his whole thing was that Yidden coming back to Eretz Yisrael wasn't to just come here and like have good schools. It was to set up schools of prophecy, because you believe that the Ruach HaKodesh, first of all, we know it's in Eretz Yisrael. And second of all, why else would we really come back here to set up schools and curriculums like it is in the rest of the world? No, it's when he's saying it, he's dead serious, Ari. Mamish. And that place, have you seen the Beit Tefillah? They won't call it a Beit Knesset. Beit Tefillah, the house of prayer that they built now, is magnificent on the farm. It's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay, so let's continue. And we're in the end of the first paragraph. שכל הדברים שהלב אומר הם דברי השם יתברך ממש. So literally God, it's literally God talking. והוא בחינת רוח הקודש, וצריך לחדש תמיד, לבקש בכל פעם בתחנונים ודברי רצויים חדשים. But here's the kicker. The kicker is like this, is that every time that you engage in התבודדות, you have to have something new to say. That's the hardest part. You have to always have something new to say. And everyone that I've spoken to in this last few weeks that has taken on Hitbodedut, almost everyone has said to me that the Hitbodedut kind of starts off in the same way. I have nothing to say. So I always say, okay, say that. Like, that should be the intro. You think God needs you to be like, okay, I have something to say, and you make up something? No. Actually say that. Express that. Rebbe Nachman, I'm sitting here because I know that this is important, but I have nothing to say. And talk about how you have nothing to say. Talk about how that drives you crazy. And then you'll talk about it for God knows how long till you realize, oh my God, I had a whole conversation with God about that I have nothing to talk to him about. And what can come out of that is unbelievable. You just got to show up there and just say whatever is on your mind. But essentially, to feel and sense the shleimus of the Ruach HaKodesh that's coming out of your mouth will come through a place of hitchadshut hadibur, that I have something new to say. You know, did it ever happen to you when you have a friend you love very much? Maybe when you were younger, you had a lot more in common. And then at a certain shlav in life, you're talking to them still because they're your friend that you grew up with. But there's really nothing new that really comes up in conversations. It's like the same old. What happens? What's the emotion? That's the underlying emotion during that conversation. What do you sense?
Distance.
Distance is one. What else?
Sad.
So yeah, sadness. Why?
Because you're no longer connected.
You don't have that. You're sad over the distance that now exists over someone that you thought was something close. Now, it's very hard to accept. When I was younger and life was a certain situation, I didn't think like this, or I didn't need things to be new. But now in life, the precious time that I have when I'm not busy taking care of my family or whatever it is, like I want there to be something. When there's nothing new in the conversation, it's very, very stale, very distant, to me, the emotion that comes up is sad. And when it happens, B'ezrat Hashem, it shouldn't happen, but when it does, Rebbe Nachman is warning from that, because when a person feels that there's nothing new to say to God, it's a very sad place. It's a very sad reality. And Rebbe Nachman is going to give us a tip here as to how to make sure that we try to do our best to not get into that place. But the tip number one is tell Hashem how boring you feel it is right now to sit in front of him and have nothing to say. And start talking about that. You'll see wild things will pop up. Okay. I want to merit this. I want to merit what? That I'll have something new to say. Nachman says, in order to merit the ability to have something new to talk about in my conversations with God, my heart needs to be pure. Okay. What does that mean? I need a pure heart. But Rebbe Nachman, you didn't tell me yet how to get a pure heart. You just told me what I need in order to renew have my speech be new. Rebbe Nachman says, what is taharat halev? What is the purification of the heart? You know, I'm going to ask you first. If you had to give a perush for the concept of lev tahor, a pure heart, what would you think that means? What would be your perush for that? Like if your children came home and said, we have an essay, right? Nerves, first of all, right? We're always nervous, which means something that I could actually help them with, right? Okay, let's say that. So now, our teacher said, you can ask your parents to write 2 sentences on a perush for the 2 words, lev tahor. What does it mean to have a pure heart? How would you help your child? What would you say? What's
There's
that?
a question. If it says lev tahor barali, then I was created already with a pure heart. How do I make that heart impure? How is it not a pure heart if it was created as such? Unless I messed it up with my mishigas, which I have to release.
So you're saying a pure heart is your natural state in which Hashem created you. Yefeh me'od. That's very beautiful. That's beautiful. Huh? Yeah, still beautiful. It could be said right in front of us. We don't notice what's in front of us. Okay, anyone else have a perush for Lev Tahor? Taharat Lev?
I was thinking similar to Meira as soon as you asked the question was a baby. You know, that's how, you know, nothing tainted. No mishugas, no periods.
Is it possible to be over the age of 2 and have a Lev Tahor?
I think you have to work on it,
Work on what?
on getting rid of the stuff, which is sort of makes me confused because it seemed like you were saying that you needed a Lev Tahor in order to do the Bodhidut, but I thought the Bodhidut really helps you have the Lev Tahor.
Say that again. Say that again in terms of like, no, it's very chazak. Let's say it again in terms of shlavim, in terms of stages. You thought that in order to do itbodedut, you need?
No, I thought in order to have a Lev Tahor, you needed to do Bodhidut because, like, you above the age of 2.
Whatever, 5, whatever it is.
Like, you don't. I feel like I don't have the Lev Tahor, right? So I need to work.
I just want to say, if you don't have a Lev Tahor, we're in deep.
Yeah, no joke.
If you and Simcha Peretz, okay, I'm just putting it out there. Because it's what everyone else was thinking here, so it's fine. I hear what you're saying.
Like, which comes first? Chicken or the egg?
Okay, so this is very good. That's the Shiloh right now. What do I need to have first? So Rebbe Nachman says like this, Liskot lizeh, in order to merit, to be able to have your words anew, and to have the Ruach HaKodesh flowing, to have really, that's what he's saying, to have the Ruach HaKodesh flowing, so that you can trust what your heart is saying. Al yedei v'taret, you need tarat halev. Tarat halev, he says, what's tarat halev? Al yedei shemitlahev uboer libo laHashem yitbarach. When a person is passionate, he says literally boer, when a person's heart is burning to Hashem, al yedei zeh nithar halev. By means of this, the heart becomes purified. We still need a little bit more of explanation, right? Because what's the next question that should come up right now? How do you become a passionate Jew? How do you become passionate? How do you get your heart to be burning for God? That's what he's saying here. Al yedei shelibo boer v'itlavut, then your heart becomes purified. It's almost like, it's like a purification processor, right, of the heart. You put your heart into what? This thing called enthusiasm and passion. Burning to God. Oh, so that creates my pure heart, which will enable me now to listen to my heart while it does it, because it's going to be Devrei Elokim Chaim. But the question that we still have is, how do I get my heart to be on fire for God? Nachon, it seems like he keeps on going through different shlavim. But first of all, and it connects to what Meira says, what happened to my heart that it became impure, right? What happened to my heart that became impure could mean that I stopped being passionate about it. I started being really okay, like sincerely okay with checklist Yiddishkeit. Now all of us should want checklist Yiddishkeit to a certain level, because we live in a world where we have chiyuv and we have obligations, and we need to check them. We need to. So that's how we live in an orderly world. The problem is that when I'm okay with that. When I'm okay with that, what seems that Rebbe Nachman is saying over there is that now I'm prevented from feeling any passion, any hitlavut in my same thing with marriage. I'm doing all the things right. I buy flowers every Friday afternoon. What are you thinking about when you're buying the flowers? What are you thinking about when you give the flowers? It can be like with everything that's a checklist, can be tremendous passion. But if you're okay with just making sure you're buying flowers, then forget about the passion, it's done. Remember that feeling the first Friday night you gave your child the bracha? Remember the pachad, the yira, the tefillas, right? So now it's like, it should, okay, it's not supposed to be like the first time. The way we live in it, it's a different world, right? But is it now just, okay, wait, are you going away for Shabbos? Okay, just make sure that, hold on. No. It can't be like that. That's when the hitlavut, that's when the passion stops and there's no tara to live. So al yedei shemitlahev u'bo'er libo l'Hashem yitbarach, al yedei ze nithar halev. Through passion and excitement, the heart becomes pure. Ki neged shenitlahev v'niv'ar le'avera o le'ta'ava ra'a chas v'shalom, shemize nitma libo, neged ze tzarich sheyitlahev v'yiv'ar libo l'Hashem yitbarach. So Rebbe Nachman says, we learned this before. He says, what happened to you when you started doing Averas, which started blemishing yourself? What element of character did you use to start rebelling? What element of character? Was it a cool, soft element of character? Or was it probably a fiery passion which led you in the beginning to kind of go astray? Eish is what usually leads people. I always say, someone that grows up their whole life Shomer Shabbos, to a certain extent, I don't think that they're able at the age of whatever it is, 18, 16, 25, 30, to just be like, you know what? I don't know, I'm not really feeling this. Flipping on a switch. It's like, it's a burning desire to rebel. Someone that keeps kosher their whole life, and then it's not for them. Even if they're not really passionate about not being shomer anymore, that first time they eat something treif, it's not just like chill, mellow. Yeah, this is probably okay. Rebbe Nachman says, generally speaking, again, there's always Yotzei Min HaKlal, but generally speaking, the element of Eish is what led you in the beginning to go and start to put blemishes on your neshama. So if it was the element of fire that opened the gates for you to stop feeling things, you need the counter element to purify it as well. That's what Rebbe Nachman is saying. Fire took you down, fire is going to raise you up again. Huh? It's exactly what he says over here, Nachon, like kashrus. And a few lines down here, we're not going to do the rest of the text inside, but he brings what Shoshana just said, he brings in Parshat Matot. In Parshat Matot, after we have all the shalal, the, how do you say shalal? Spoils from Midian. So it says, all the utensils and everything, kol davar asher yavo ba'esh ta'aviru ba'esh. In order to kasher things, what do we call that today? Libun. The element, the process of libun means things that had to come into fire in order to need to be purified the same way. So that's very important. And Rebbe Nachman says, essentially, you cannot get away in this life, meaning you can't, and if you're truly passionate, that your hitbodedut sessions should produce such a conversation where you can trust your heart, because it's really divrei Elokim. You have to purify your heart. How do you purify your heart? You must be passionate about the conversation. You must be passionate about the relationship. So the question that Rebbe Nachman is not answering here is, how do you become more passionate about the relationship? That's what you're here for today, to give answers for. How do you become more passionate about your relationship with Hashem? Who wants to give a shot at this? There's no wrong answer. Yeah.
What do you think about how much you need that relationship?
Is it okay to say imagining if you didn't have it? So is it okay to say that when you're with a person and you want it to be like a very strong hitorerut of something? Is that my phone? No. Can you imagine? Oh, okay. Can you, is it okay to imagine, God forbid, not being with the person? You know this song from Hanan Ben Ari called Im Tirtzi? It's a famous song. There's also, I think my mom showed me yesterday that he did a Bezek commercial now with someone else with this song. Im Tirtzi, the whole video of it is him, Hanan Ben Ari, in a hospital, in an elevator with his whole band. And the whole song, it's like a very funky, fun song. But if you listen to the words, it's crazy. It talks about like he's so scared of not being able to have his wife in his life. So they asked him, when did you write this song? He's like, well, I was up once middle of the night and I realized that, they're expecting their 6th kid. And he said, I imagined for a second that she was killed in a car accident, something like that. Mashu kaze. I forgot what, or pigu, I don't know. And he said, and I started thinking about what the reality would be like if I didn't have her. And it brought out such an emotional tune from him. So it's kind of, you're saying how much we need him. I think sometimes the way we get to the place of realizing what we need is when we have to imagine that we don't have it. What else? How else could it be? Yeah. Asking Hashem for it because you don't know how to get there on your own. It's funny. People think they're supposed to know how to do this on their own. You're not. It was created in order to ask. Yeah.
Spending more time with Hashem.
Spending more time with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Why would that raise the passion?
Because I think when you get to know somebody more, you're more invested. When you don't know them as well and you don't invest yourself in, then there's real no connection.
Mm-hmm. So what would that mean, spending more time with Hashem?
Maybe davening more, davening better, just focusing more.
While you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What else could be? How to get your heart, how to become passionate for God.
Rebbe Nachman.
I tend to agree with that, yes. Anyone else have any other ideas? What works the Amir?
Thank God for miracles.
Gratitude. Mamish. My ear is bringing up, and I see in the chat over here, first of all, I just want to ask Mechila from the Chaver that are learning with us on Zoom, is that I'm not looking at the camera other than when sometimes messages are coming up. And I see it's such a nice Chaver here with us today, but I'm sorry. But I did see a few times that the word gratitude came up as being a very massive and important element of making yourself become passionate in a relationship. But I want to say that you can even plug in what Shoshana said into what you said. Hashem Yisbarach, I know that you've blessed me with so much, but I want to feel gratitude. I want to feel like I'm really thankful and not just giving you lip service of saying the right things, of count your blessings. Okay, I can count my blessings all day long. I want to feel the counting of my blessings. So these things, and the more I think of it and focus on it, like you're saying now, these things really do bring about a hitlavut, a passion for something, because you become more invested in it. It becomes more of the way that you really, really are, of who you really are and who you want to continue to become to be. So again, now we're going to build these shlavim. Rebbe Nachman says everyone was created with a pure heart, and we want to get back to that place of a pure heart. Why? So Rebbe Nachman says that when a person speaks words between him and his creator, when a person's disposition is on, then at that moment, what happens? It's a bechina of Ruach HaKodesh. And when it's Ruach HaKodesh, then it's Hashem Yitbarach speaking, mamash. And when it's Hashem Yitbarach speaking, mamash, during your Yitbodedut, that the words that are coming out of you is Hashem speaking, you could trust those words. And that's how we began the shir, saying, how do we know how we can trust our hearts or not? Well, if it's emanating from the world that we just described over here right now, that's the way. That's how Rebbe Nachman is saying. This is the way. But the key word for the entry to this is hitlahavut, is enthusiasm, is passion. Key word. I saw someone wrote a whole ma'amar that Hashem Yitbarach kicked us all out of shuls all over the world because in most places there was nothing new going on. Same old, same old. There was no divrei pius, divrei ritzuim chadashim. There was nothing new. Why? Because passion and enthusiasm was, that's the Karbach meeting. They meet once a month on Friday night. It's like, it doesn't have to be a Karbach meeting. You don't even have to sing necessarily. You realize that. It just so happens to be that singing opens the heart. But I've seen people that don't sing one nigun in davening, and they are like Karliners. Like Karliner Hasidim on Friday night. I don't think they sing anything. And they are screaming their heads off. Itlavut. Chadash. It's new. It's new. Okay. So I just wanted to now, what time is it? I don't have a watch. 10:40? 10:42. Okay. So jump to the bottom now. We have a short piece over here that's from Rav Erez Moshe Doron, our dear Rav Erez Moshe Doron, who always gives us a beautiful taste of the Torahs that we're learning. If you go to the bottom of the page, he says like this. Rebbe Nachman megale lanu. He's giving a little perush on this. Rebbe Nachman megale lanu. Ki ma shemedabrim beino levein kono b'chinas ruach hakodesh, that what a person speaks between himself and his creator is an aspect of ruach hakodesh. Hechan mitgale lanu beitbodedut ota b'chinat ruach hakodesh. Where in hitbodedut does ruach hakodesh become revealed to us? Balev, in our hearts. Ikaron ze lomed Rabbi Nachman mipasuk beteilim lecha amar libi. Rabbi Nachman learns this, that in the heart is the ruach hakodesh from the pasuk lecha amar libi. It's to you that my heart was speaking. Mefaresh Rashi Sham, and Rashi says lecha bishvilcha ubishlichutcha amar li libi. For you and on your shlichus, my heart was talking. Umikan lomed Rabbeinu, and Rabbi Nachman learns like from here. Shekol advarim shalev omer hem divrei shmitbarach mamash. That all the things that the heart is speaking are literally God's words. V'hu b'chinat ruach hakodesh. Omnam miyad ola she'ela, but immediately the question comes up. Ha'im nitan be'emet lismoch be'ofen goref al hanchayot halev? The question we asked in the beginning. Can you really full-heartedly trust what the heart is saying? Don't we say in Shema v'lo taturach elavchem afrei einechem? Can you trust that the heart is not leading you astray? How and when can you trust that you're not being deceived by your own heart? Halo libeinu gam maleh birtzonot anochiyim ubitfisot mesulafot shel hametziut. Our heart is also filled with distorted, with selfish will. Like I'm selfish. It's very much about the ego, but also twisted and distorted tfisot, like concepts of reality. It's a lot of things that our heart is telling us isn't.
Isn't that our head? Doesn't our heart tell us the right thing? Our head is the one that messes us up.
I don't know. My heart can tell me to do things that are right because it feels so right, but it's so wrong. Not because it sounds right, because it feels right. That's the heart speaking, and it's not right. That's exactly what he's asking. How do I know when the heart tells me to do something?
To me, it seems like the head is the one that's messed up. The heart knows. It's like your gut knows. Your thoughts is like.
Wait, so the head is messed up, but the heart's okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think so.
I think we're saying the same thing, but we're defining things a little bit differently. The place in us, in our heart, on an emotional level, that tells us this is right, isn't always like that. For instance, she hates me. No, she doesn't. You just think she hates you because she didn't compliment you on your outfit.
Is that the heart or the head?
It's a feeling.
Right.
It's the heart. The mind?
The mind, the head.
If it was just the mind, then you know what it wouldn't do to you? Bother you. It wouldn't bother you. So machshava goes in and out, but it's shochen. But if right, the mind can. The mind. Listen, the mind plays with its games all the time. But there's a reason why the Torah said, because the heart can convince me that my feelings. Someone told me a great thing recently. Don't believe everything you think. Simple. You realize we believe most things that we think? But I want to say now, don't believe everything that you feel either. Even though you're feeling it, it doesn't mean that it's actually the mitziyut. So usually between people, like that person doesn't like me, they hate me, they don't want me around. It's not necessarily true. But why am I so convinced that it's true? Because it feels right. That feeling, the hargasha, is more associated with the heart. So that's what he's asking over here. He says, my heart though is so filled with ego, with thoughts. How can I, what am I going to do with all this? How can I really trust it? Achen, Rabbeinu madgish be'ota Torah, Rebbe Nachman emphasizes in the same teaching, ki rak kasher halev tahor legamre. Only when the heart is completely pure, efshar lishma bo et kol Hashem bilvad. Only then are you really only hearing God's voice and not your own miniot. Kol od hu eno tahor, as long as it's not pure, as long as the heart is not pure, you cannot fully rely on what you sense through your heart. So what should be the question now? We're getting closer and closer. What's the question now after all this? What's that? How do you make your heart full? Well, he says over here, fully pure. Like this is already the higher level. Before we said your heart has to be burning for God and be an enthusiasm. So the shaila is like, what constitutes, or like what produces a heart that's fully on fire for Hashem Yisbarach? Because essentially it seems to be the only way that I can trust what's coming up from my heart fully. Because at that moment it's Hashem speaking, it's not me. The shaila is, how do I produce such a heart? So we started answering by saying, listen, itlaavut is essential, and no one can tell you what level, what's a level of itlaavut where it stops. It's like, oh, be passionate until this point. There's no such thing. It seems like it's this ongoing mystery. But if that's the kavanah that I'm having every time that I'm engaging in conversation with Hashem and with Torah and mitzvahs, to be more present, and all the other things we said before, it seems like that's the closest we can get to having a leiv tahor, and to keep on asking. See, leiv tahor brali elokim is not a statement. It's a bakasha. Bra means please create. So to mashtin what you said, bra is please recreate, but it's a request. Leiv tahor brali elokim. Bera is a tzivui, it's a command.
Past tense, it would be bara.
Leiv tahor barali elokim that's what once was. Leiv tahor brali elokim is a bakasha for the future.
Well, it's interesting because in Chabad Hasid, it's so interesting. I've never really, I feel like I've learned Rebbe Nachman, but not really in depth, but not in the text. But in Chabad Hasid, it's like so interesting because there's really not much talk of the Rebbe. It's more like right machshavi b'alev. You're only working together with your mind, right? And like your mind is the master of your heart. And I don't know, I feel like it's very true.
You connect to
the mind over the heart.
There's no
together. This is just. I guess I'm not used to like just talking about the heart so much.
Right, but do you see a stira over here?
Well, I guess there's just like so much. I guess it's changing as we're reading.
Right.
This seems like initially there was like a lot of emphasis, trust.
Does the mind play any game in any like role in this teaching? What do you think? Does the mind play any role in the teaching that Rebbe Nachman's bringing about here?
It starts with the
want.
Nachon. Nachon. To start this whole process, you need the moach. I don't see it as I see that this is totally moach. I wouldn't say shalit alev. I would say moach mechavenet alev. It's a little bit different. But the moach definitely plays a role here, but it's guiding the heart where to go and what to act upon. But yeah, it's definitely a different lashon, a different way of speaking. And we see it all the time, and sometimes it drives us insane. Shoshana's been so quiet, yeah. Sometimes it can drive us absolutely in the sugar. Right? You don't know what anyone's, yeah. Okay, so let's continue. B'chol ofen, mitoch ha'iyun b'torah zo, nonetheless, we see from looking into this teaching, olad derech rishonit leberut chushot halev. There's this initial way of sifting through and verifying and clarifying what the heart is sensing. Chushot halev. V'hi nilmedet min ha'pasuk lecha amar libi. And it's taught from the pasuk lecha amar libi, kfi shepiresh oto Rashi, lecha bishvilcha ubishlichutcha amar libi. לכאורה, רבינו רצה ללמוד שכל הדברים שהלב אומר הם דברי השם יתברך ממש. It seems Rebbe Nachman initially wanted to teach us that everything that the heart says is actually God's words. ובשביל זה היה די בדברי רש"י, לך בשליחותך. So it would have been enough for Rashi to just say that לך means בשליחותך, and your shlichus, I'm speaking to you. ואם כן, מה מוסיף לנו רש"י במילה בשבילך? But Rashi also says this is for you. How does that add anything over here to the avodat הלב? אפשר לומר שלפני הכל, this is going to tie in everything we're saying right now. אפשר לומר שלפני הכל צריך האדם לברר עם ליבו בשביל מי ולשם מה הוא עושה את מה שהוא עושה. What a person, huh?
Simple.
Well, it's clear, but it's simple. No, it's, yeah. He says, before you do what you're doing, what you have to do is clarify with your heart, for who and for what are you doing what you are doing in your avodat Hashem. You know what's amazing is that we think that we have this down already. We think, not you, you're the only one. Everyone else thinks they have this down. Meaning everyone assumes that if I'm already keeping Torah and Yiddishkeit for so many years, it must be that I'm very aware for who I'm doing this and why I'm doing this. And nothing could be further from the truth. That kind of a lifestyle does not produce passion. It doesn't produce any form of investment in a relationship. It doesn't produce any gratitude either, because it's just what I have. It's not something that this is who I am. Do I thank God for my fingers? Well, maybe you should. Nah, whatever, I have it. It's like part of my thing already. But here he's saying over here that when Rashi adds the word bishvilcha, he's saying that's what Rebbe Nachman is really saying to us. And look at the second to bottom line over here. If it becomes clear to you that your kavana of what you're doing is really for the sake of heaven, and your actions are actually for God, klomar bishvil Hashem, velo lehana'ato ulitzrachav ha'ishim, and not for your own pleasure or your own needs, as אפשר להתחיל, sorry about this typing, אז אפשר להתחיל לדבר על הכוונה משמיים, על קולה הנשמע בליבו. Only then you could start to talk about the voice that you hear in your heart. כי רק אחרי שהאדם יוכל לומר בשבילך, only after a person says this is for you, יוכל לומר כי מה שליבו אומר לו, הוא גם בשליחותך. Only then you can say that what your heart is saying to you is coming straight from Hashem, your shlichus. Shedivrei libo him divrei Hashem yitbarach. How did he bring a parish? To me, this is perfect. How did he end off over here saying? You want to know? You still want to know how you can trust your heart? Well, the Rashi there that says bishvilcha ubishlichutcha means as much as you think it's already clear to you why you're doing what you're doing and to who you're doing it, stop one more time and ask yourself, when was the last time I did something purely l'shem shamayim? Purely l'shem shamayim. It's a petrifying question. Petrifying question. Only once, Rebbe Nachman says, only once you've worked through that, and it's clear to you that what you do in your avodat Hashem is mamash l'shem shamayim. Like the Kotzker Rebbe says, even your l'shem shamayim should be l'shem shamayim. Then you can begin to trust that that which is emanating from the conversation you have with Hashem is Hashem Yitbarach mamash. Now, this is perfect also for going into slichas and the tefillot of the Yamim Noraim. Because the most crucial word based on this teaching that we have in davening is the word lema'ancha. Where do we see lema'ancha? In davening of slichas for Shani and Kippur. So we say in slichas, lema'ancha Elokeinu aseh v'lo lanu. Lema'ancha Elokeinu aseh v'lo lanu. For your sake, do whatever we're asking. And then where else do we see Lemancha in the Shmona Esrei of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? Zochreinu l'chaim melech chafetz b'chaim v'chotvenu b'sefer hachaim lemancha Elokim chaim. What I'm asking for Hashem Yitbarach, and I want to put it into a tefillah, because I wish I could say, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Hashem, we're about to go into this world of tefillahs. I want so badly that when I ask you for life or anything good, it's only so that I can make your name greater in the world. Lemancha, give me life. Lemancha, give me parnasa. Lemancha, give me shalom bayis. Lemancha, give me refuah. For your sake, for your sake, for your sake. When that's the consciousness and the awareness of your relationship with God, that brings about passion that's unbelievable. And that is the mikvah of the neshama. That's the purification. That's the libun. That's the what's that thing that what do you call that thing that you use in libun? That's the blowtorch. That's the blowtorch. That's exactly it. So I think that we in the beginning of this year, it's like, oh, we can go have Ruach HaKodesh after Shir. Right? No, it's not. I mean, it's not so simple. You got to go through a few things. You gotta sit down with God for a bit and start to get a little bit clear. Like, wait a second, why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? And I'm gonna stick to it until I could actually begin to feel it. But it doesn't happen like this at all. But it's so wonderful and beautiful once that becomes the kavanah. Because just imagine what a beautiful world it would be when you know that you can trust your heart. It is a glorious world. When you can trust that thing that's happening in here, trust it. There's nothing more beautiful. That's mamash shleimus. That's real shleimus. So whenever you have the words Lev Tahor Brali Elokim, because it's going to keep on coming up now in the next few weeks. Then you say, I know it's in me somewhere, this Ruach HaKodesh, meaning I know that inside of me, I can remember how you created me and what's that you created me. I know the burning desire to want to do things for you is somewhere here. So don't throw me away from there. Don't take it away from me, please, God. I know it's there. So we should have an investment in this relationship. We should have enough guts to mevatel ourselves, to ask God to get a little bit more of everything we think we already have, everything we think we've taken care of already, to be open enough to admit and realize so many of the things that I thought I already had, I don't. But that's perfect, because it was all set up for me to begin my Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur davening at 5781 in a state of bittul, in a state of emptiness. Thank you for making me feel empty. It's causing me to begin to ask for things. But wait a second. Why am I asking for it? Hashem Yitbarach, I want to be able to ask what I'm asking for, l'shem shamayim. Because That's the only way to purify my heart so that I could actually hear you when we're speaking to each other. And that's the world that Rebbe Nachman set up for all of us. That's cool. That's very, very cool. No stira. No stira. Bittul doesn't, Ruach HaKodesh is not, it's not something you produced. It's something that was, you were, like your Nefesh Elokit. Did you produce your Nefesh Elokit? Bittul. You were created with it. So and yet the only way to really go, to get to the Nefesh Elokit is through Bittul. All right. Yeah.
It reminds me of the you always say when lighting candles.
Yeah.
That you ask for a parnasah and everything that you're asking for, so that you'll be freed up to do avodat Hashem.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't know. What's that? What's the lashon? Do you remember?
Exactly.
Do you remember?
So anyway,
I would love to. I would love to see.
But I read it, so I know when
It's
don't
okay.
quote it incorrectly. So
Okay, I would love.
So and you're asking for all these things, so we're not dependent on man, and we frees us up avodat Hashem, and you're davening for your children.
Wow.
That they should have all this.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It occurred to me that logically, and it's very practical, it makes so much sense, because if you're so worried and busy with things that are physical or parnasah or this, you don't have that physical time to do what you want to do for Hashem, the acts of loving kindness and helping or whatever it is. That so I just like connected it with that Roman Chav. We want to do this so we could bring you into this world.
That's beautiful. I would love to see that lashon inside. Shenizkeh lezeh, Bezrat Hashem. Shkoach everyone. We'll continue Sunday morning, Bezrat Hashem.